Hello and welcome to Allot 360 Analysts and Experts. I'm Michael Schachter, and today we're going to discuss cybersecurity with Jared Carlton, Principal Security Analyst at Frost and Sullivan.
Hello, Michael.
And with Eliyah Havemann, the DDoS Product Manager at Allot.
Hi.
So Jared, my first question to you is, when you hear DDoS, people tend to think of scrubbing centers, and the question is there room for an inline solution within the DDoS mitigation market space?
I think there is. Obviously, there's competition out there in the DDoS mitigation area, but it's the CSPs that are seeing a lot of this traffic go across their networks. I've actually been in security operations centers in Europe and listened to some of their security analysts talking to me about how they can see all of this happen and that they don't always have the ability or the authorization to go in and shut it down. They see what's going on their network, and I guess, to go back to how I started my answer, yes, there definitely is space for it and a need for it.
And if we think about DDoS and the evolution or the revolution that 5G is about to bring, are there specific issues that we need to take into account when we consider DDoS attacks and mitigation in 5G?
Well, there are. Obviously, 5G is going to bring us higher levels of bandwidth, which means that there's going to be more IoT devices connected to the network. When you take a look at this and you know that there are a lot of IoT devices that aren't necessarily being patched and could be brought into a botnet, then you have the capability of having so much traffic go across certain areas of a 5G network that it could actually bring down geographic areas. And that's something that has implications for public safety and, disrupting other areas of society as well.
So Eliyah, it sounds like DDoS is a growing threat, and the question to you is, Allot is not known specifically as a DDoS player. Why should CSPs turn to a company like Allot, or specifically Allot, for a DDoS solution?
Well, our experience is in keeping the pipes clean, is providing quality of service inline as a bump in the wire, and we are like in the perfect spot in order to see and mitigate DDoS attacks. And we have the proven carrier-grade capabilities, and we can detect and see attacks very, very fast with the solutions we have. Our solution is based on our DPI line of products and has the same resiliency and the same quality of service.
What would you say are the changes that CSPs are starting to see in the DDoS landscape? As we move to 5G and IoT proliferation, what's going to be different about the DDoS threat?
The DDoS threats evolve together with the network and together with what's happening out there. As you already said, there is a lot of IoT devices being connected in 5G, so we're going to see a lot more outgoing DDoS attacks, and we have to protect the CSP's own network from its own users, and not just a service in the network from somewhere in the internet. So direction-wise, we see a big change. The other point is that with IoT botnets, we can have much more sophisticated bots that can create very, very specific patterns. So the increase of 0 days is going to be there. When in the past, if you see one DDoS attack somewhere in the world, it's very likely that the same DDoS attack will occur somewhere else. With these bots that can be programmed to do specific things, you can have specific attacks per target.
And we've actually seen this happen where specific, for example, security reporters, Brian Krebs was targeted not that long ago, his website. And you've also seen DDoS attacks being focused against different types of secure email providers. All of this really shows that there is a clear necessity for a better type of DDoS mitigation for the CSP market.
Eliyah, when we look at the DDoS competitive landscape, there are a lot of scrubbing center solutions. Enterprise have their own set of solutions. What really differentiates the DDoS Secure from Allot as a different kind of DDoS security solution?
Well, the scrubbing center solutions normally rely on NetFlow in order to do the detection of the attacks, and then they divert the traffic to the scrubbing center. And the scrubbing center is then doing its job, and it's normally doing it pretty well. But the point is that in order to rely on NetFlow, you need to use the samples you get there, and they have two problems in resolution. One of them is that the resolution is 1 to 10,000, 1 to 100,000, whatever you configure as in packets. And the other one is that the resolution is normally like 5 minutes. So everything that is below a certain threshold of attack, you will not be able to see, and that could be even something like 200, 300 megabits, which could, kill one of your customers with the least line. And also attacks that are below 5 minutes become completely invisible to you, or you're only going to see them after they ended already. So to be inline allows you to react much faster, and actually our solution will detect and mitigate attacks within seconds and not within minutes, and will allow you also to see smaller attacks, like 50 megabit attacks that could easily kill a leased line to any business customer, but would not harm overall networks.
So what you're saying is that the inline inspection gives you a much finer granularity, both in terms of time sequence and size of the attack.
Exactly.
And I think that's a really critical factor, is the speed with which you can mitigate the attack. Because for some businesses that might be targeted by this, being brought down is the difference between making money and not making money.
And also the kind of attacks that we see in our customers' networks is that from the old kind of attacks where they had really, really long floods with high bandwidth, they're kind of a thing of the past. What we see now is a lot of pulsed shortwave attacks that could bring down a network easily, but cannot be mitigated by anything that is working only on 5-minute resolution.
So you mentioned something about directionality and the ability to protect the CSP from reputation damaging attacks that essentially look to the outside world as though they're coming from the CSP's network. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, there's two things to it. The first one is that you first have to understand that attacks cannot only come from the outside to the inside, but also the other way around. So your detection mechanism has to see both directions. That's the first part of it, and that's something we do. And the second part of it is that you want to stop hosts from being weaponized so they can become part of a botnet that would attack targets in the internet. And what we do in order to prevent it is to put them in a special service plan, how we call it, where you can isolate them and treat them.
Thank you, Eliyah, and thank you, Jared. And this brings us to the end of our session. See you at the next Allot 360.